We caught up with a federal lawmaker, Senator Shehu Sani, who spoke to us on some of the issues surrounding the 2016 budget.
What we saw in the budget is something that needs time and meticulous study to be able to work on it. It is true that many of our ministers have actually not gone through the budgets which they presented before us. And this is supported by the fact that going through some of the figures from agencies that are under ministries are suspicious and sometimes funny. From some of the experiences which we have, each time you ask the minister some certain questions about the budget he is presenting, they try to refer you to some of their subordinates they come with. And then when you go deeper into such an inquest, you see the lack of coordination and some suspicious behavior from among them. Now, this has been the case for a very long time, but this time around, we from the National Assembly said things must be done differently.
With all the issues that we're seeing with the 2016 budget, the issues of the padding of the budget and errors in the budget, would you say that President Buhari shouldn't have presented the budget at the time he presented it, that he should have taken more time to really look at this budget and present a budget devoid of all these issues?
Well, you see, the president found himself in a catch-22 situation. The first side is that he wants to do things differently by presenting budget at the time when it is due. And secondly, he doesn't have the luxury of time in that this government came into place almost middle of last year. And when you are just coming into office and you have very few months to work on a budget, and also taking cognizance that ministers that are in place here were in office in the last 3 to 4 months. So it was a situation whereby they had to hit the ground running. They come in to office, and the first thing is for them to prepare a budget for the preceding year, and they have to meet a deadline. And now they have to rely on the agencies and civil servants that are within their ministry to get these things through.
Now, in the budget defense sessions, which we have been following and covering, we learned of some very worrying, things like, for example, in the education budget, we saw a situation where some very worrying, subheads, billions allocated for websites, billions allocated for VIP toilets, even the State Health budget for the money appropriated for the State Health Clinic, which is generating its own fair share of controversy. When you hear of this, when you sat through the budget defense sessions and you saw these figures, what passed through your mind? What are your thoughts?
And I, for one, I cannot in any way justify some of these outrageous figures which they are presenting before us. It doesn't make sense to me for anyone to spend billions for a clinic. It also doesn't make sense to me for anyone to see he is spending 200-300 million for information technology consulting, which is simply about maintaining the information system of the agency. So these are all issues which I believe that we have to do a lot of work in terms of presenting and approving a budget that will be said to be different from the ritual which you have had in the past.
Now, this brings me to the issue of the zero budgeting system, or the practice, which the executive had said that was going to be how this budget will be prepared, zero budgeting. With other issues you are seeing in this budget, repetition of subheads, the cut and paste of figures of last year in this year's budget, would you say that this zero budgeting system was actually followed in the preparation of the 2016 budget?
Well, I can tell you there are a lot of issues apart from zero budgeting that need to be straightened out and clarified. And one of which is you will see a situation whereby a head of a parastatal comes before you to defend a budget. Last year's figures was 300 million, perhaps, for his own, for a capital project, and this year he's putting 2.5 billion. And the prices of oil in the international market last year was 140, and this year was below $30 per barrel. And again, you see some things that ought to have been solved 2-3 years ago still appearing. And I think in the general sense, the civil servants in the ministries took advantage of the fact that these ministers are just coming in and a budget must be presented. And it must simply be presented whatever it is. Simply there should be a budget that should be presented. And without knowing fully that this has to go through a channel that is different from the one they know.
We know the 2016 budget was a hot topic during the week in the National Assembly. However, lawmakers also gave attention to other matters separate from the budget. The National Assembly is asking for the support of Germany to eliminate terrorism and the full integration of internally displaced persons in the country. The Senate President made the call when the German President paid a visit to the National Assembly during the week. Senator Saraki said the legislature would be reviewing laws to encourage private sector investment in the country.
We want to also encourage your support in the area of diversification of our economy, particularly in the areas of agriculture and solid minerals. As of now, largely Germany plays a key role in the supply of heavy machinery and in the areas that are important in agriculture and manufacturing.
The Lagos Chamber of Commerce also paid a courtesy visit on the Senate President. The organization is asking the National Assembly to enact laws which would create an enabling environment to enhance productivity of the private sector of the economy. The President also suggested that a comprehensive framework be put in place to encourage the inflow of capital into the Nigerian economy.
We suggest that a comprehensive framework for the autonomous foreign exchange market be quickly put in place to reduce the current level of uncertainty in the foreign exchange market and encourage the inflow of capital into the Nigerian economy.
Responding, Senate President Bukola Saraki said despite the dwindling economy, the way forward is to move away from oil and work with the private sector in unlocking untapped potentials.
I think we need to work together to look at the different industries, and especially those of you in Lagos chambers, let us look at the different industries and say, what do we need to do as government to support those that want to, for example, if you are talking about the tomato paste, for example, or you are talking about the rice production, or you're talking about what are those incentives that we need to do. We would like you to come back on those and engage some of your members that are ready to do that.
Now, this is where we draw the curtains on this week's edition of The Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us and see you again next week.